Hi everyone, my name is Erin Hardick. I'm here with Barbara Clemenhagen. Barbara is the Vice President of Market Intelligence at CES. How are you today, Barbara?
I'm great, thank you.
And we're here at ETS18. Were you here last year at ETS17?
I was here at ETS17, although I did fail on the questionnaire on what the theme was yesterday.
Oh my goodness, I had to end up calling out a client of ours, so we'll see how that goes over next week.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to since ETS17 over this past year?
So over this past year, it really has been just a lot of, my work involves market intelligence for all of our customer base, which ranges anywhere from, the small guy with one little storage unit that he's trying to get interconnected somewhere in the grid, to all the way up to the big investment banks trying to figure out how to either lend money to people or provide sleeving credit into these markets and helping these markets be more liquid, or to the utilities and other energy companies that are in these markets. So we look at everything from what prices are going to do to what emerging technology is really, what the impact of emerging technology is going to be on the new market.
Well, in that sense, you have a unique perspective of the industry because you work with so many different types of people. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you're seeing as we move through this digitalization transformation between stakeholders?
Yeah, so I think that, interestingly enough, you would think the large sort of utilities that are kind of the dinosaurs that lumber through, and they're almost like the big tankers that don't turn very quickly. Because they're so well capitalized, they're able to bring in some of these technologies, at least in a kind of a test environment, almost more quickly than the smaller consumers and buyers can bring them on. So I think we're seeing a lot of kind of good incubation going on at the large scale energy companies of projects that will eventually be implemented. We're also seeing those companies do a lot with storage, with new renewables. And we're seeing, things like reliability requirements, sort of stretching the requirements in that, as we recover from Superstorm Sandy or from Harvey, we're starting to see new and innovative techniques to sort of respond to those kind of conditions. So that I do think that as much as we think that the small guys are going to be the ones to deploy this technology, it really has to be the municipals, the co-ops, and the large utilities, as well as the big energy companies, the big integrated energy companies, who are going to be the ones that actually capitalize it and get it out to the end users.
So energy certainly isn't the first industry to go through this big wave of digitalization.
And maybe the last.
Exactly. So what other industries can we look at and kind of pull some ideas from as we move through?
Yeah, so the most regulated industry that's similarly situated to the energy companies would be the telecom companies. So we always kind of look to what happened with telecom as we deregulated and the new technologies got introduced and we became wireless and we have these advanced phones. The difference between Ma Bell and where we are today with our iPhones is exponential. And one of the speakers yesterday made a comment related to if Alexander Graham Bell woke up today, that he would be reeling and think 1,000 years had passed, and if Thomas Edison woke up today, he would be thinking he died yesterday, because the power plants are still look an awful lot, and some of them are actually power plants that he was around when they were constructed. So certainly in the Northeast. We have been slower as the energy industry, and some of that's excuses. When I started in this industry, it was the late 80s, and one of my projects was working on fiber to the home in the late 80s. So since the late 80s to today, we still really are just on the edge of getting fiber to the home through sort of, what would be the energy companies. And really the telecom took that over. So interestingly enough, I think this industry has lagged, and not for great reason. But how we're leapfrogging in two ways. In the US, we're leapfrogging through technologies like the Nest. So consumers have a lot more information. We're leapfrogging through commercial and industrial applications that are bringing similar information to the Nest, but vastly more data. But we're also leapfrogging outside of the US, especially in developing countries, where they're bypassing large-scale transmission and utility, and they are going directly to distributed energy, more renewables, more advanced technology. So they're just leapfrogging right over what we have here today. So they don't have this investment in this older infrastructure that really is just going to have to age out before consumers are really going to pick up the bill for new. I mean, consumers don't want to pay for what's old and pay for what's new, so there's a certain amount of let it retire, which I think is delaying a lot of advancement, especially in the U.S.
So one other transformation that I see occurring in the industry, aside from digitalization, is really diversification of the workforce. And you got the pleasure of sitting on stage with your friend Marianne Berlinski and talking to her kind of about that subject. So can you tell us why that was so important for you two women to sit up there and kind of address that?
Yeah, so I mean, Marianne and I have been in this industry a really long time. We sort of started in the energy industry. She started on the oil and gas side at a refinery, and I started in the utility sector, and we've always been, to a certain extent, the only women in the room. So it was really important to us over time to really advance that and not regress. And Marianne mentioned the story about the Gulf Coast Power Association having a conference only 4 years ago where there were no women on the panels, which was astounding. I mean, this is 4 years ago. This isn't 40 years ago. And we sort of tend to regress, mainly because there's more men in the room. So it's really critical for us, first of all, for gender diversity, but also I think you just get better answers. I think we know this. There's recorded evidence of economic value of having a diverse C-suite. It's clear evidentially that companies with women in the C-suite are 15% more profitable than companies without women in the C-suite. It's not as clear whether boards are having that same influence on profitability, but certainly the C-suite, where people are actually making day-to-day decisions on behalf of the company, having diversity, whether it's gender or cultural diversity or other diversity, but the importance is that you can't just have you can't have one person making a decision on the hiring and then hiring a whole bunch of people that look and talk like that person, whether it's female, male, or culturally diverse coming from different cultures. You have to have a good mix of people, and that's what creates this profitability, and it's well documented. There's a lot of evidence of profitability, and why wouldn't businesses want to be more profitable?
So you got your small speaking part out of the way. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the week?
So for the rest of the week, I just love to hear what people are saying. I love to hear whether or not there really is a whiz-bang technology that actually, is getting a lot of uptake. I like to hear from, sort of the old school utility guys when they're talking about kind of the things that get them lit up, because it turns out that everybody wants to see advancement in this industry, not just the new guys coming in with emerging technology. Those of us have been around for a really long time, and just looking at light switches, we'd love to find a new way of doing it. And then I have a husband at home who has literally put in every advanced technology to turn on and off our lights and do all sorts of things in the house. So I know he expects me to do better, because frankly, the technology out there right now for even just a smart house is not really that readily available for people, everyday consumers.
Well, customer expectations are high right now.
They really are.
It'll be interesting to see how we move through that and try to gauge expectations and respond to them, because that's a new world for utilities, right?
It is. I mean, utilities have never really been as customer facing as they should have been. So this is kind of forcing them to be customer facing, in that their customers have a nest. They know what they're doing. They have apps that tell them what the latest wholesale price of energy is, so they have a really good understanding of what they should be paying. And the more data they have, the more dangerous they become to the utilities.
Well, Barbara, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to speak with me. You were great, and I'll see you throughout the week.
You will.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.